Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Friends, my name is Pat McFadden. I am the MP for Wolverhampton South East. And it's a great, great honour and a real privilege for me to host Vaisakhi in Parliament once again in conjunction with the British Sikh Consultative Forum. And before I say anything else, I want you to join me in thanking the children from the Khalsa Academy, which is in Wolverhampton South East, for the wonderful kirtan that they have played to open our event tonight. And I want to say to the children that you've been a great credit to your school, to your families, to your teachers. And I hope that the memory of coming here to Parliament to play kirtan for us tonight at the opening of our Vaisakhi in Parliament event is a memory that stays with the children for a very long time. Now, friends, this Vaisakhi in Parliament celebration has been taking place for many years. I was shocked to find tonight it's the 15th year that we have conducted this event, and it's been my honour to host it for, I think, around 10 years or so. So it's really great to be back. And of course, this is the first time in 3 years that we've been able to hold this event in person. In 2020, we couldn't hold an event at all because we were just entering the first lockdown. And last year, we held the event online. So it's a particular pleasure for me to welcome everyone here tonight to celebrate Vaisakhi in Parliament and in person. And I want to thank Mr. Speaker for his kind permission in allowing us to hold this celebration in these amazing state rooms. Take a moment to look up and look around you. This is one of the most beautiful and most historic locations in Parliament. And it's very, very important that our Parliament, the heart of our democracy, should celebrate those religious occasions which mean the most to every part of our community in today's United Kingdom. And Vaisakhi is such an occasion. Through these weeks, Sikhs in every corner of the United Kingdom and throughout the world celebrate the foundation of the Khalsa, that willingness to lay down everything for one's faith. And the community does this in many, many ways, gathering at gurdwaras, meeting family and friends, taking part in the Nagar Kirtan processions, which take place in many towns and cities across the country, including a huge one on Easter Sunday through the streets of my own constituency. Now, we've learned a lot these past 2 years, not least the importance of human contact to all of us as human beings, that really we are only whole through our relationship with others. And these past 2 years have been a really tough time for the country. We lost so many people to the pandemic. We had to change our lives in ways that were very hard for people that none of us thought we ever would. Social occasions missed, family and friends that couldn't be seen, and of course, in the hardest cases of all, people not being able to say goodbye to loved ones. These were indeed hard and testing times. But the pandemic also showed great strengths in our country. We saw hard work and care way beyond the terms of any employment contract. from our workers in the NHS, in social care, in so many other fields. We saw delivery drivers making sure that we had the goods that were needed to carry on with our lives. We saw a huge nationwide vaccination programme designed to protect ourselves and to protect one another. And right across the country, in the constituencies of every MP who's here tonight, we saw countless community efforts to look after one another, to distribute food, to combat loneliness, to help one another through this. And the Sikh community was at the very heart of those efforts. The tradition of langar was brought to the fore as gurdwaras throughout the country played their part in making sure that the community was fed and supported. And in the finest traditions of langar, it didn't matter one jot whether the recipient of that food was Sikh or not Sikh. These were hard times, but they also showed the best of the human spirit. And I want to put on record tonight my thanks to the Sikh community in the United Kingdom for everything that you did during the pandemic. And at this Vaisakhi celebration, to look forward to a better future, to look forward to better times, based on all those efforts which were made. Now, we've got a number of speakers for you this evening. In fact, if it's speeches that you like, you have definitely come to the right place. This is a cross-party event. It is supported by the APPG for UK Sikhs, led by my friend Preet Gill. It's supported by my parliamentary neighbour, Stuart Anderson, who's here tonight. It's supported by Alison Thulis of the SNP. And I'm going to make an effort through the course of the evening to read out the names of all the MPs who are here. But don't worry if you don't come in the first round. There's going to be plenty of time. But I try and make sure I give everyone a mention. The thing is, I'm not as good at this as Mr. Speaker. He knows everyone by sight. So as the evening goes on, if you haven't had a mention, Eve from my office is here. Just go up and see her, tell her who you are and say, Pat's not mentioned me yet, and I'll do it. So this is a cross-party event, as I said, and we will hear tonight from speakers from all the main political parties represented here in the House of Commons. And also, we have an illustrious range of speakers from the Sikh community itself. And I want to introduce the first of those to you now. It's a particular pleasure because he's a good friend and a constituent. He is Executive Director of the British Sikh Consultative Forum, who are our co-hosts tonight. And he holds positions in a number of charities, including being chairman of the Council of South Asian Culture and Education. Friends, please welcome my constituent and friend, Dr. Sadhu Singh.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Welcome to all guests and members of both houses of parliament to the 15th Vaisakhi celebration. 2 years between, but this is the 15th one. I want to thank Right Honourable Mr. Speaker, Right Honourable my own MP, Patrick McFadden, and the staff of this wonderful place for hosting and promoting the Vaisakhi function year after year. Let me first wish Happy Vaisakhi to everyone, and I'll do that with Jakara. Bole Sonia first. We also have heard wonderful, inspiring spiritual kirtan from the children of the Khalsa Academy in Wolverhampton, which is in Pat's ward, my own hometown, the British Sikh Consultative Forum has been working in several areas for the last 2 years. We work together with other Sikh national bodies to deal with the pandemics. As a community, some gurdwaras rose to the challenge and worked together to supply langar to thousands of people, irrespective of age, creed, color. We worked together to set up guidelines during the pandemic with the advice from experts. We started a bi-monthly magazine of British Sikh Consultative Forum activities and of the Sikh community. We ensure that other Sikh organizations are also included in our magazine. British Sikh Consultative Forum has been working with Sikh Human Rights Group in setting up a Sikh neurodiversity network. Now, this project is to make gurdwaras more welcoming and accepting of children and adults with autism. We are glad to see progress has been made. We have set up an interfaith group to work on resilience and joint efforts by learning from the experience of the pandemic. Our focus is practical rather than dialogue. And lastly, we are embarking on a new project which majority of you will like. We've been missing on it. The new project at British Consultative Forum, we feel that we as a community have not done much for the generations that build the gurdwaras. Fought to get us the rights to practice our religion and endured. We had a future as a proud community. That's our first and second generation. British Consultative Forum is bringing together gurdwaras, and it's not easy, I can tell you that. Gurdwaras area to set up day centers and looking towards helping them in setting up residential homes for the elderly close to gurdwaras to continue to meet their spiritual needs and ensure they remain close to the community. Now that's a challenging project for the future, for everybody. Our first and second generation who worked hard in the foundries built these beautiful gurdwaras, and majority of the gurdwaras have not done anything for them. We're doing enough for the children, but for that generation, there's not much work being done. I hope by next year we will have some concrete progress on this. Now, can I wish everyone happy Vaisakhi again? I want to thank all those who have contributed in various ways. I'm also very happy to announce that Amrit Singh Man of Punjab Restaurant, who have provided food every Vaisakhi since we started, has been honored with the OBE. In fact, the number of Sikhs with the honors is increasing. This shows that Sikhs are now well integrated into Britain. Thank you.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਤ ਸੰਗਤ ladies gentlemen members of parliament lords and dames and ministers leader of the opposition my name is Jasdev Singh Rai. I'm the general secretary of the organization and so welcome to the 15th Vaisakhi at Westminster. I think we've all come through a very difficult time. The pandemic has been a painful experience for almost everyone, especially those who lost loved ones. But it also brought out some of the remarkable qualities of different communities. Communities work together to get food and other necessities to those who couldn't get to shops, were isolating, were working hard at the front line, and the resilience and partnerships developed. Barriers of race, ethnicity, faith, gender, and lifestyle came down during this period. And it showed us the benefits of inclusivity, which is very important. The British Sikh Consultative Forum has teamed up with members of some other faith communities to set up a working group on issues such as poverty, joint volunteering, and coordinating efforts during disasters such as the ones we had. Some of the representatives of this interfaith group from other faiths are here, and please do talk to them. Inclusivity is a core principle of the teachings of the Sikh Gurus. Throughout Guru Nanak Sahib's life, the musical companion Bhai Mardana remained a Muslim, and at Vaisakhi 1699, the Khalsa was born as a distinct order. However, the Khalsa was instructed by Guru Gobind Singh Ji to serve all of humanity, not just the Sikhs, okay? Irrespective of their background or belief. While being distinctive, the Khalsa is also inclusive, okay? And that runs throughout all Sikh institutions. Inclusivity is about genuine respect, genuine acceptance, not just tolerance, and genuinely treating everyone with dignity. It is about ensuring there are no barriers or differential treatments regardless of differences. Britain is a beacon of diversity that has emerged over the last half a century with communities from all over the world. And ostensibly, the diversity of identities and the idealism of inclusivity pull in different directions. But keeping them functioning harmoniously and creating a national synergy with a diversity and cementing a sense of belonging. Cementing a sense of belonging brings challenges that we must work at. This places great responsibility on leaders and influencers to ensure that statements, policies, and laws do not introduce any sense of marginalization, isolation, or loss of rights and respect. We must avoid politics of populism and ultranationalism to avoid fissures in otherwise an inclusive society. I think it will be fair to say that Sikhs and Britain have a great deal of congruence in promoting the harmony and synergy of diversity and inclusivity, and can work together to ensure any remaining or potentially emerging barriers to achieving inclusivity are removed. This is the message of Vaisakhi for all of humanity, and indeed, as British Sikhs, to all of our fellow citizens. Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you very much, Jasdev. As I said in my opening remarks, we're going to hear speakers from both the Sikh community and all the main political parties in Parliament tonight. And it's my great pleasure to introduce the first of those to you this evening. It's a particular pleasure to introduce my own parliamentary leader, my own party leader, the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer. Thank you. Keir.
Thank you very much, Pat, and happy Vaisakhi, everyone. It's absolutely great to be here today. It would be great to be here for any celebration like this, but after 2 years of having to do everything online, it is a very special pleasure to see so many people at this event, and I'm really struck by how many people are here. My office said to me 20 minutes or so ago, Keir, it's really busy in there, it's really buzzing in there, and then I came in, and it's wonderful just to see you all here, to see so many colleagues, to see so many friends who've come, and I can see looking around the room from across so many places to be with us this evening. So it is a real pleasure to be here. Can I start by thanking Pat McFadden for bringing us all together this evening, and to the British Sikh Consultative Forum for their sponsorship of this event. It wouldn't happen if those individuals and bodies hadn't brought this together. And thanks to all the children from the Khalsa Academy in Wolverhampton for playing the opening music. Now, I met the children earlier on this afternoon. They came up to my office and told me that they'd been practicing for days on end now for this evening. And I said to them how delighted all of us would be, as we are, to see and to hear them perform. And so thank you to those children for what they've brought. And thank you to the Academy in Wolverhampton for all the fantastic work that it does. You should be really, really proud of what you've done today and for the performance today. Can I broaden my thanks as well? Because I want to take this opportunity in person, my first real chance to do so, to thank all the Sikh community volunteers, organisations and charities that have stepped up in these challenging times. And that's been mentioned this evening already. But your efforts, I think, really embody what is the best of us, because Sikhs have been at the forefront, whether that's supporting people through the pandemic, and that was a really tough period. But also, of course, there's a cost of living crisis. Many people are still struggling. And throughout those difficult, challenging times, you have stood up and you have supported and you've extended that hand to so many people in all of our communities. And I want to say a big thanks for that. Some of you in the room will know that I visited the Croydon Gurdwara the week before last on Vaisakhi Day, and it was really fantastic. But that brought home to me the work that you all do. It was one example, but a really very powerful example of a Gurdwara with all of the inclusiveness that we've just heard about, but also the extension and holding out a hand to others. And I was struck by so many non-Sikhs who were in contact with the Gurdwara and the food that was being provided. I think 500 meals a week, week in, week out, being provided to anyone in the community that needed it, either to come and get some food or to have food delivered to them, and the support that goes with it. And I think that, more than anything, sort of embodies for me what this celebration is all about. And we did some seva there, and I ate and I delivered and served up for other people in the right tradition. And it was wonderful to just see the inclusivity, the excitement, and just the sense of being that was there in that Gurdwara, as there is in so many others. So my big thanks for everything that you do, not only in support of your own communities, but in support of all communities, and that inclusivity I was really, really struck by. But if we're friends, we have to face up to the difficulties as well. And I wanted to say a few words about anti-Sikh hate, because we all know, you know, the targeting of Sikhs has been on the rise. And I know what a huge concern it is to everyone in this room and many, many beyond this room. And I wanted to take this opportunity to make it absolutely clear that the Labour Party stands side by side with you as we work together to combat racism and prejudice in our society. I think successive governments have been too slow to deal with anti-Sikh hatred. And therefore we have got to take a stronger stand, and we've got to take it more quickly. And I pledged on Vaisakhi that a Labour government will put this right. And under my leadership, a future Labour government will robustly stand up for the rights of Sikhs everywhere and work to ensure that Sikh communities feel safe, secure and respected. And we can take that away from tonight. I know that broadly the values of Sikhi are aligned with values of the Labour Party, serving your community, fighting oppression and seeking justice. And I'm really pleased that we have, my party, the Labour Party, and we're so proud of this, have two Sikh MPs in Preet Gill, who was here a moment ago, but we've got a vote going on at the moment, who's a member of my shadow cabinet, and Tan Desai, who we're going to hear from later on. We're so proud to have them as our representatives, Labour representatives, in the House of Commons. I know what you will all be thinking on your heads, which is that's all very well, Keir, but we've got to go further. We need more representation across all elements of Parliament, nationally, locally, etc. And you're right about that. And I want to work with you to make sure that we build on that representation, have even more representation as we go forward. But it remains for me really to end by saying, happy Vaisakhi, enjoy the rest of the evening, enjoy each other's company. It is so good to be back together. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Keir, and we are all very grateful to you for taking time out of your very busy diary to come and speak to us this evening. I want to move on to our next speaker, who is a spokesperson for the Supreme Sikh Council, a freelance multimedia journalist. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome to address us tonight, Ms. Kamalpreet Kaur. Kamalpreet, thank you.
Respected members of the Parliament and distinguished guests, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, and a very, very happy Vaisakhi. Imagine waking up to a world which is without prejudice, hunger, or suffering. Just empathy, peace, and love. The world where all are equal and everyone's idea of fatherhood, of God, and brotherhood of human being is not divisive, but an exhilarating and liberating experience. I believe for this very reason, in 1699, the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, established the order of the Khalsa, the Pure. The people who joined the order then and the people who get initiated today know that they have the responsibility to make this world a better place for everyone. They know that they are expected to go beyond the call of their duty to stand up for the rights of all the oppressed, vulnerable, and in dire need of help without any bias against the circumstance of anyone's birth, clan, caste, color, creed, race, faith, or gender. The Guru's message of oneness helped replace privilege, bigotry, and intolerance with equality, diversity, and inclusion. The Khalsa understand that it's Guru's will to not just tolerate, because we only tolerate some things that we don't like but we have to live with. The Guru says we have to be inclusive, and so the Khalsa's embrace is all inclusive. Sadly, despite all the progress we've made as civilized people, we are no closer to the ideals of equality and inclusion. People around the world continue to suffer, most sufferings man-made, inflicted out of greed and ego and one-upmanship. This is why it's really important to celebrate Vaisakhi in the corridors of powers that be, especially like the houses of the Parliament, where the policies are drafted and enacted as laws that decide the fate of their citizenry. If the politicians are inspired by the values of truth, justice, welfare of all, Sarbat this will reflect in the laws they make and themselves abide by, and vice versa. It is heartening to see more and more politicians joining in to wish everyone happy Vaisakhi and Khalsa Sajna Divas. However, it would be more wholesome and appropriate for the lawmakers to ensure that the Khalsa's articles of faith, the Kirpan, the Kara, the turban, get the legal protection they deserve, so that the Sikhs who set up food charities for the homeless countrymen, or those who fight for the country, or those who as doctors or nurses and other frontline staff put themselves in the line of danger, do not have to fight to protect their self-respect and identity in stadia or concerts, schools or airports, or even places like the London Eye. It is for them to also ensure that anyone raising human rights issues is not arbitrarily labeled as an extremist. Vaisakhi exemplifies the Khalsa as a wonderful blend of a saint who feels and embraces the pain of his fellow beings, and a soldier who has moral courage and wisdom to do something about it. Let's continue to pass on this legacy so that one day the world actually wakes up to love and peace. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you very much, Kamalpreet. I advise anyone coming up to leave this delicate microphone. It's a sensitive being. It's my great pleasure to welcome somebody who made a little bit of history when she was elected a couple of years ago. We've had a few firsts, and she was certainly a first. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome my colleague, my quite near parliamentary neighbour, not very far, the MP for Birmingham Edgbaston and the Shadow Secretary for International Development, and perhaps tonight, most importantly, the first ever woman Sikh MP. Please welcome Preet Gill.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I want to start off with wishing everybody here a very happy Vaisakhi. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. What I think has now become a staple of the Sikh parliamentary calendar. And thanks always to Pat, because it's never easy organising all of us, is it? But he does an absolutely brilliant job. And I want to thank Eve as well and his team for her help in organising the event. This weekend, I was able to go to Guru Nanak Gurdwara Samavik's open air Vaisakhi celebrations because, of course, this year we weren't able to have a Nagar Kirtan. But it was an absolutely wonderful event. And I think any MPs here that haven't actually joined a Nagar Kirtan or gone to join their Sikh community in their Gurdwara, please do, because it is an absolute beautiful event. But what was amazing about it was, given the pandemic, it was the first opportunity to see all of our community come together. And of course, one of the things that I definitely felt was all those that we have lost, because those faces were no longer among the crowd. And that was really, really felt, especially some of our elderly, but of course some of our young Norjwan who obviously lost their lives during the pandemic. So I want to remember all of them as well today. It's such a pleasure, though, that here in Parliament, of course, just as we haven't been able to get together, we haven't actually had any events. So it's wonderful to be able to open up Parliament and have these wonderful events. And as Pat said, at the kind permission of the Speaker, it's wonderful to be hosted here in the Speaker's room. But Vaisakhi for us is really a time to reflect on the values on which the Khalsa Panth was founded, the defence of freedom, of equality, and the betterment of all. And across the world, our values of equality, peace, and harmony are under threat. And in this past year, we have seen the fall of Kabul to the Taliban, where the last remnants of centuries of Sikh history and culture in Afghanistan was all but wiped out. And in recent months, we have all been devastated to see the senseless brutality of Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, the scenes of wanton destruction and death targeting civilians and, of course, aid workers, women and children among them are so very distressing. And in this time of great instability and division, I seek courage, as you do, and comfort in prayer. And so I hope this year that we can all reaffirm our commitment to the values of Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the Panch Pyare devoted themselves to in 1699, that these internal values remain as important now as they have ever been. Earlier this month, I got to see these in practice when I visited the border of Poland, where over 2 million refugees have been welcomed in their search for sanctuary from Putin's monstrous war of aggression. I met with United Sikhs, and it's wonderful to see Suncor here, who were on the ground providing hot food, medical supplies, and of course Khalsa Aid was also there, and other goods to those crossing the border. And the selfless service of the Sikh community has been something we've all witnessed here in the United Kingdom. And here we were, at the edge of a war zone, doing the same again. And I can't tell you how moving it was to see those Ukrainian women and children who had fled their lives received with such warmth and generosity. And I know Sikhs are working tirelessly through their Gurdwaras to support and welcome all refugees across the UK too. And the teachings of the Sikh gurus remind us that the human race is one under God, and how we should work towards the well-being of all, of course, of Sarbat da Bala. These are the proudest tenets of our faith. It's why I'm proud to represent our community in Parliament with the all-party parliamentary group on British Sikhs, because when we talk about the values that guide us, events like this, it is never just words. We put our values into practice day in and day out. And in these dark times, that devotion is invaluable and a testament to our community's incredible contribution to the world. So thank you once again for all being here. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I want to proceed with the order of speakers that we have. And we talked about firsts. And one of the advantages of being this kind of first is you're very, very visible. And so I want to introduce you to another first, and that is the first turban wearing, the first Dastari MP, who was elected in the same election as Preet a few years ago. It's my great pleasure to welcome my colleague, the MP for Slough, Tanmanjeet Desi MP. Tanman.
Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh. Good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here once again in the Speaker's staterooms. And I know that because of the pandemic restrictions, many of us have not been able to enjoy this event or indeed the Nagar Kirtans that have now recommenced. First of all, I want to pay tribute to my very, very good friend, the Right Honourable Pat McFadden MP, because long before the likes of me were even elected to this House, the likes of Pat have been there as a strong friend of the Sikh community, raising Sikh issues on innumerable occasions. And whether it was human rights issues, whether it was other issues affecting the Sikh community within the UK and beyond, it was Pat who was standing there being the standard bearer. So thank you so much, Pat, for everything that you have done. And I also want to pay tribute to the British Sikh Consultative Forum, Dr. Rai, Dr. Sadhu Singh, Pai Saab, and all of the organisers who have made today's event possible. And indeed, we all know why we are here. We are here to mark the creation of the Khalsa order in 1699 by the 10th Sikh Guru. As the Guru himself said, Khalsa mero roop hai khas, Khalse mein ho karo nivas. The Khalsa is my special form and I reside within the Khalsa. And that is why it was said, Vaho Vaho Gobind Singh, Ape Gur Chela, that the Guru, not only did he create the Khalsa, but as is very beautifully depicted on the picture behind me, he actually became a member of the Khalsa himself by taking the ambrosial nectar from the five beloved ones. So it is very, very important that we remember why we are celebrating Vaisakhi and also the central tenets of the faith. It's about love, it's about compassion, it is about sharing with others. And it has been incredible to see the Sikh organizations, there's a plethora of them, and many of them are here. This is another one of the amazing things that because of Mr. Speaker, and these elegant surroundings, and because of the incredible organisation of Pat and all of those involved, many of those are within the room today. And as was also described earlier, many of them have not only done selfless service, the seva within the UK, which has made many of us extremely proud, but they have also gone to war zones, whether that was previously in Syria, whether that's been whenever disasters have struck in Haiti and elsewhere, but they have also been recently to the Ukraine as well. And that, I think, is emblematic of the Guru's vision, that we are working for Sarbat Napala, working for the betterment of all, regardless of background or gender or colour or creed. And long may we continue in that vein. But I know there are a lot of speakers and you don't want to be bored to death with my long speeches. But thank you once again to Pat, to everybody that's here, especially the media partners. I know that this event will no doubt be broadcast far and wide, especially within the Punjabi and the Sikh media. But I'm also grateful to many of our parliamentary friends on a cross-party basis. They are here. I won't list them. I think that's the job of Pat, because that is a poison chalice. You miss out one individual and all hell breaks loose. But Pat, I will leave you with that. But thank you so much to all of yourselves for attending here in Parliament. And I hope that all of the various organisations here will continue to work together for the betterment not just of Sikhi, but of wider humanity. Vaiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaiguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you, Tanmanjeet. And I'm now going to enter into what Tan referred to as that poison chalice phase, where I mentioned some of the politicians in the room. And as I said in my introductory remarks, if I don't get you the first time around, don't panic. If you tell Eve from my office that you're here, we'll mention you later on. So I'm just going to go on who I can see now. Starting on my left, we are joined by Bambos Charalambos, Rosie Duffield, I go along, Chi Onwura, Alan Whitehead, going along. I saw John McDonnell up there at the back. We had Parmjit Danda, former MP, who is here. We've got Nina Gill, former MEP, who is here. Oh, welcome. We've got Dean from Watford. Welcome, Dean. Further back, we've had Abena Opong Osare, Taiwo. We've had Florence Eshalomi. We've had Janet Darby. We've got Paulette Hamilton. We have Virendra Sharma, Rupa Haq. I can see Zara Sultana in front of me. Afzal Khan is here. And Felicity Buchan is here. And at this point, I'm going to take, and Kate Osimo's here, but at this point, I'm going to take a break and we'll come back to others who haven't had a mention after the next speaker. As I said, you will hear tonight from MPs from across the political parties. And so it's a pleasure for me to introduce someone who's supported this event for many years from the Scottish National Party. I can see her up at the back. She's an MP for my hometown in Glasgow. And so I ask you to give a warm welcome to Alison Thulis, MP for Glasgow Central. Alison.
Thank you so much, Pat. It's great to be here. An absolute pleasure to be back in the Speaker's House and seeing so many people in a room together as well. It's just wonderful after so long being apart. And having the Sakis are lovely, they're very nice, but you don't get the company and you certainly don't get the pakora and the samosas either. So it's wonderful to be here and share this with you. It was a joy also to see the processions going through Glasgow as well, between Glasgow's 4 Gurdwara, because we are so proud to have in the city of Glasgow and around Glasgow such a wonderfully proud Sikh population, all giving so much to the community, and no less through the lockdown as well. And because I haven't been able to do this in such a grouping, I want to give my very public and grateful thanks to the Sikh Food Bank in Glasgow, who did so much through the pandemic under the leadership of Chandeep Singh. He was recognised in the honours for what he has done in bringing the community together and taking that langar to people's doorsteps. Because everybody knows in Glasgow that if you go to the Gurdwara, you will get a lovely meal. You can't go through the door before somebody's asking you to sit down and eat. Such is the generosity and the kindness. But during the pandemic, we all know that wasn't possible. So Chandeep and his team made sure that langar went to people's homes, to those who needed it. And I had so many constituents who were really struggling during that pandemic, and I knew that I could trust the teams at the Gurdwaras to make sure that they got that food, and all my constituents who received it were so incredibly grateful for that. So I wanted to take the opportunity to say that publicly and to thank everybody who was part of that, all the Serdars who gave their time and their generosity and their donations as well to make that possible. It was really quite wonderful to see. I also wanted to mention, because it's been an ongoing, long-running campaign of my colleague Martin Docherty Hughes for his constituent Jagtar Singh Johal, who is still being held in India, which will be 5 years, I understand, in November without seeing justice. And I know that Martin was pressing the Prime Minister to raise this on his visit. We don't know yet, because there hasn't been a statement given to the House whether any progress was made on this. But please be assured that my SNP colleagues, that Martin Docherty Hughes will be pushing for justice for Jagtar so that he can return to his family in Dumbarton, from whom he has been apart for far, far too long. I also wanted just to finish by saying that there's a saying that we have, that people make Glasgow, and the Sikh community are definitely part of the Glasgow that I know and love very much part of the community, and we are very proud of them. And that solidarity was seen most prominently in Kenmure Street in Pollokshields. And I don't know if anybody has been to Kenmure Street if they know Pollokshields, but there was an incident more than a year ago, where two Indian Sikh men were taken from their homes by the Home Office to be removed from the UK. And all of the neighbours, all of the families, the children, the grannies, everybody in Kenmure Street and beyond came out into the street and said, "These are our neighbours, let them go." And that was so incredibly powerful that it doesn't matter where somebody had come from, but in Pollokshields and in Glasgow, everybody stood together to look after those people, and that's how welcome and how part of the community that the Sikh community are, that they would stand up for each other in that way. And I'm very, very proud to represent Glasgow and to represent that community and the Sikh community at the heart of that too. So thank you very much for having me this evening. Waheguru Ji Ki Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Great pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker. Cabinet ministers are very busy, so I'm very grateful to him for coming to join us this evening. Someone who I've known for not years, but decades, I think we can say, and who is got particular relevance tonight because he is the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, for Housing, and for Communities. So please give a warm welcome to Michael Gove.
Thank you so much, Pat. Can I just say a big thank you to all of you for coming this evening. A huge thank you to the speaker for allowing us to meet in these magnificent rooms. Thank you to the British Sikh Consultative for helping to organise this evening's celebration, and of course to the all-party parliamentary group that does so much to make sure that the interests of Britain's Sikh community are represented here in the House of Commons. I think the fact that there are so many different speakers, so many different members of Parliament from both Commons and the Lords, from different parties and from none here, is a reflection of three things. The first thing is our joy that we can celebrate Vaisakhi in person. After 2 grim COVID years, when all of us found that we couldn't be together with friends and family in the way that we wanted, and when this most significant, most holy, most wonderful celebration could not be joined in the way that we would have wanted, when gurdwaras were empty, when homes were restricted to families, at last we can all be together, and that is a fantastic cause for celebration. The second thing is, as we look back on those 2 years, I think it's the case, I know from my own constituency, that people were helped throughout that time by the spirit of community, the spirit of compassion, and the desire to help all that characterises Britain's Sikh communities. And when it's been food for those who've been in difficulty, or help and medicine for the vulnerable, your compassion has extended across all boundaries. And I wanted to say a deep and heartfelt thank you to all of you. And then the third reason is, as we look towards the future, as we think about what it is that makes our United Kingdom great, one of the things in which we can take pride is that across all our political parties and across all our institutions, we've been a country that has welcomed and grown strong through diversity. We've respected tradition. We know the importance of faith, but we also know that together we achieve far more by celebrating where we've come from, venerating what we've inherited, but having that shared sense of purpose for the future. I was reminded of that this morning when I was visiting my second favourite place in the whole United Kingdom. Now, Annalise and I know that our favourite place in the whole United Kingdom is Aberdeen, where I was born. My second favourite place, of course, Wolverhampton. And the reason that I was in Wolverhampton earlier is that my department has established a new headquarters there. It is wonderful to see that city, which has such effective representation here in the House of Commons, on the up. And one of the reasons why Wolverhampton is on the up is that it's a city that prides itself on its tradition, its industrial heritage, the fact that it's a place of manufacture and makers. But it's also a place where the values that all of you are celebrating this evening are exemplified. Those values of community and compassion, the way in which the 5 great virtues of Sikhism are exemplified in how that city is reviving, I want to see across the whole United Kingdom. So this Vaisakhi is a chance for us to celebrate faith, to celebrate this community, to celebrate how far so many of you have come, and also to celebrate a British future in which you play such an important part. So I just wanted to say thank you all very much, and I hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. There is much that unites everybody in the room tonight and much that unites us across the parties. And the statement that Wolverhampton is a wonderful place is one of those things. So I very much agree with Michael on that. In terms of names of MPs, I believe Valerie Vaz was also here earlier, so happy to give a shout out to Valerie. And I see Seema Malhotra over there as well. And Clive Lewis is also here, so I'm happy to keep calling them out. Now, is Sukhjeevan Singh here? Sukhjeevan is here. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker, another prominent voice from the Sikh community itself. He is the spokesperson for the Sikh Council UK, the founder of the Jyoti Sarup Foundation, a distinguished scholar and author. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sukhjeevan Singh.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sukhjeevan Singh, the former spokesperson of the Sikh Council UK and a current member of the National Executive. Vaisakhi is a very special time for us. It coincides with the harvest season in many parts of the world. Here in the UK, it's the growing season. And the cycle of growth relies upon the dispersion of the sun's energies through its rays. For growing, it's essential that the weather is warm enough and for there to be enough sunlight. If there's a warm spring, if we have good weather, that means we're prepared for the winter when there isn't much warmth or sunlight. The pandemic was like a long winter, and it tested our resilience. Ordinary Sikhs from many communities around the United Kingdom, they served their local and their national communities and the National Health Service and many other bodies disproportionately. It was a pleasure in that time to collaborate with many Sikh organisations, including the British Sikh Consultative Forum. During that same time, Sikhs in the UK were able to amplify the democratic voice of Indian farmers protesting for agrarian rights in the Indian capital of Delhi. But where we are now, it's springtime, and springtime is a stage for growth. Stage one for those of us that are interested in gardening is weeding, it's clearing our gardens and our fields. And that's the story of Vaisakhi. We need to better our institutions, including faith, those in the third and public sectors. Guru Gobind Singh, who established the Khalsa order at Vaisakhi, which many speakers before me would have mentioned, he had a lineage, he had a following, he had masses behind him. Yet he still chose to create a new order, that order of purity, of men and women, of people of all ages, of all background and social statuses. That purity wasn't based on race or nationality, it was based on character and virtue. So like I said at the beginning, the sun disperses its energies and that's what we feed from. And this is the basis of our growth and survival. At Vaisakhi, what Guruji did, what Guru Gobind Singh did was he dispersed his energy into the five beloved, the Panj Pyare. And like a hardy seedling, if I can use another gardening term, the Sikh community survived against all odds, against frost and all sorts of disease. And here we are as the world's fifth biggest faith group. So there are great lessons for all of us within the public sector, within government and within our organisations to learn from the story of Vaisakhi. So thank you for inviting us here and in behalf of the Sikh Council UK, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Our next speaker is someone who has spoken at this event many, many times. And it's very easy for us as politicians to turn up, say many nice things about the Sikh community, to thank you for everything you do. But it's also important to remember the real meaning of what it is we are celebrating at the time of Vaisakhi. And there is no one I can think of better to tell us about that real meaning than our next speaker. And every time I listen to him, I learn, and I learn something new. So it really is a great pleasure for me to introduce the very learned Bhai Mohinder Singh Ji to address us today.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you so much. I want to say a few words in Punjabi first for my Sikh brothers and sisters. Thank you. And in Punjabi, we have a verse. Harsyon jor sabe meet. If you connect up with God, everyone becomes your friend. He is the creator. We human beings are a divine spark. Each one of us is a divine spark. There are no aliens here. You have to respect each one. And Vaisakhi is a time when Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, we have to connect up. All relationships is all about connectivity. Connecting with God, you connect up with the creation, the whole creation. You get disconnected with God, you are disconnected with the creation. Very simply put. So it's important at Vaisakhi to remember what our Guru said. I start what I wrote. Dear brothers and sisters, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, a very happy 323rd Vaisakhi to you all. May God, the all-embracing, almighty creator, bless us all, leaving nobody behind. Vaisakhi is universally celebrated by all Sikhs, particularly since the birth of the Khalsa on 30th March 1699. Vaisakhi also marks the start of Vaisakh, the second month of the traditional Punjabi calendar. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's message for the month is in Rag Tukhari. It evokes the mindfulness of a believer who contemplates the pangs of separation from God and the ecstasy of being reunited with one's Maker. It does so by drawing on the analogy of a bride awaiting her longed-for husband. By depicting how in the month of Vaisakh, nature reveals its many colors and elegant beauty, this verse reminds us of the golden opportunity before us to embrace and connect with God. Guru Arjan Dev Ji's message of the month of Vaisakh is in Rag March. Vaisakh Tiran Kyon Vadiya, Jinna Prem Picho, Har Sajan Purkh Visarke, Lagi Maya To. This composition takes the converse strategy of considering the adverse effects of separating ourselves from God through distraction or delusion. Here Guruji reminds us that the month of Vaisakh becomes truly beautiful and joyful when we establish a spiritual connection with God and begin to blossom with spiritual virtues which emanate from our Creator. As we perceive the divine light dwelling in all creation, we more keenly recognize our interconnectedness